The Champions Classic is often a confirmation ceremony for would-be dudes to announce themselves, to show that they are unafraid of the moment and of bona fide dude caliber. Over the years, we've seen it happen many times. But to recap this night, we're going to start with the marquee prospects and work backwards. Although I was not disappointed in the outcome of the game, purely in the prospect sense, it was hard to come away from this Kentucky-Duke game disappointed. Even among the nitpicks that I had, most of what I saw was more tweakable than concerning. You don't often see a college team where the 3, 4, and 5 spots are filled with players projected in the top 10 of the same draft, but that's what Duke has this year in Kon Knueppel, the 7'2" center from South Sudan, Kon Knueppel, the stout and skillful wing from Milwaukee, who's listed at 6'7", but I stood near him and I regrettably have to throw a challenge flag on that one, and this kid named Cooper Flagg. If you haven't seen Kon Knueppel, the quick pitch is this: sturdy, deliberate, and dynamic movement shooter who works well in off-ball screens while also displaying a knack for burrowing into the mid-range and using that frame to function as an effective shot maker. He can also really pass the ball. Kon Knueppel did not shoot particularly well on this night, missing some looks that he normally makes, but to me, a lot of his highs and lows were driven by whether or not he was playing hurried. We saw some catch-and-shoot looks where the detail in his footwork seemed a little off, and drives into the paint where he let the defender dictate the situation and make the shots tougher. Credit to Otega Owe, whose name always makes me think of this, for a lot of that. I just think that Kon needs to slow down and turn contact into a weapon that he can use. I really do see a lot of potential for Kon Knueppel to function as a Booker or Beal type slot operator, someone who can imprison defenders with bumps, seals, and technique when getting to his pull-up jumper, which is absolutely pure. He's also a very capable lob thrower and skip passer from these spots. Down the stretch, there were too many instances where Kon Knueppel, in my opinion, Duke's best advantage creator, shooter, and passer, was relegated to standing and spacing the floor. His gravity is useful by itself. I just think that by the end of the year, Duke's forwards will be doing the vast majority of the handling, and if it were me, I would put Kon Knueppel at point guard. We talked about dude confirmation. For those who'd seen Cooper, this was about what you'd expect. For those who hadn't, it was likely a moment where seeing became believing. I get asked this from time to time, but to me, what makes Flagg generational is the combination of how high his baseline is with the very realistic possibility that he becomes a player at the center of an efficient NBA offense. Skill set is one indication of that, and Cooper showed that throughout by scoring in every which way. He worked cleverly off the ball and got easy ones. He ran in transition. He hunted mismatches in the half court and used his size. But it's been fun to track his ever-expanding portfolio of separating on-ball moves. One dicey move that pops up often is this dribble right, engage the body, spin back to the left move that he should maybe be situationally more careful with. Here he sells the head and shoulder fake, defender bites, he gets into his body and spins, but in this part of the floor, it's a vulnerable move because he's turned his back to the help defender for a couple of seconds, and this comes into play later. Luckily here he draws the foul. Next possession, he gets the same switch with a different defender, but he sells a similar move, hops into a lower position, and then finishes with touch high off the glass. Very nice. Another indicator is when we see a young player thinking sequentially over the course of a game, and this was visible in the way that Duke repeatedly went to his pick and roll with Kon Knueppel, who was a defensive presence for most of the night before cramping, but he did most of his offensive work around the rim. Early in the game, we saw a middle pick and roll where Knueppel did a great job bumping and sealing Kentucky's Andrew Carr, getting on his low side and forcing Amari Williams to commit. This pass over the top is available. Knueppel is gigantic, so you can just throw it up. But instead, Cooper settles for a contested pull-up three. Later in the second half, we saw the same action in pairing, and Cooper sees that it's being defended the exact same way, and he doesn't make the same mistake again, throwing this pass that leads to an easy two. The sequence was completed later in the game when Carr went under and prevented Kon's roll, which opened the door for the three, which he took and made. These aren't complicated reads. There are several levels to go, but Cooper has shown that the hardware and the software are on track to upgrade. Defensively, my concerns for Kon and Cooper are actually inverted. In open space, Cooper is a world-class gap closer and extremely agile, but you gotta look at what happens when he's forced to contain near the basket and that gap to create disruption is taken away from him. Strength and time are likely the answer here, as he's still only 17 years old. Kon is the opposite. His frame prevents drivers from playing through his chest. However, I wonder about his ability to start and stop when he's in open space guarding the ball against capable shot creators. For Kentucky, despite winning this game with a roster that was carefully assembled to play a certain style, it'll be fascinating to see if they even have an NBA player. Jackson Robinson and Kobe Brea are both elite catch-and-shoot players at the college level, but neither player seems to like contact while driving the ball. I'd imagine we'll talk about Brandon Garrison down the road as a high-motored big with inklings of shooting touch. Andrew Carr is a solid college player, but I have my reservations. Otega Oweh again. Was a menace defensively and made some timely shots off the catch. And finally, working backwards to the first game of the night, a sloppy and choppy game that Kansas managed to win, the prospect conversation was lighter in terms of surefire first or second round talent. For Michigan State, there's Jace Richardson, son of dunk contest legend Jason Richardson, who's a 19-year-old lefty freshman who, while intriguing, doesn't have quite the same size or vertical pop that his dad did, although few people do. He had some nice moments playing off the ball and getting off the ball quickly with drop-offs. Xavier Booker is still in that hypothetical stretch big zone despite insisting on playing that way. For Kansas, Rylan Griffin is unlikely to be a major creator for KU, but he did look comfortable playing off the catch, taking and making some shots and driving closeouts. He also had a big block down the stretch. Zeke Mayo, the 6'3" reigning Summit League Player of the Year who transferred in from South Dakota State, is most likely to share some of that heavy handling load for the Jayhawks alongside DeJuan Harris. Mayo is a proven scorer. He was lethal shooting dribble pull-up threes in the pick and roll and was highly effective in the mid-range. He leveraged his offensive respect in this game and got into the paint to share the ball while finishing with 7 assists and an impressive 10 rebounds. And there's an NBA template for a player like Flory Badunga. Daniel Gafford, Isaiah Jackson, Jericho Sims. He's extremely quick off of the floor and long. It's just that he might be a year away from being positionally ready on either end. And on and off the floor, Hunter Dickinson usually manages to be a charged subject. But his status as a potential NBA player is unlikely to be as controversial. In this game, he did what he does, can set shots from the elbow area, push shots in and around the paint, duck ins where he seals and scores. The issue is that in a ball screen league, an inability to change directions quickly and then vertically challenge passers or finishers is, how to put it, a gigantic challenge. I like his passing ability and his shooting touch. I just worry that he's ever able to give more than he gives up. So, quite a night in Atlanta. We saw a lot of what we wanted to see with plenty of things to monitor and to build on, and I expect that we're going to do both. Let me know if you agree.